Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our session, Learn What's New with VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA. Thanks for coming and being on time. Appreciate that. Before we get started, I'd just like to go over a couple quick housekeeping items for us. So the first is that we are recording this webinar, and it will be available for you on demand later this week on the VMUG site. So you'll receive an email with that link as soon as we have it, if you wanted to review any of the content for later. The second is our speakers will be answering some questions. If you have a specific question for them, go ahead and put it into the Q&A at the bottom. That ensures that they're able to see it. Sometimes the chat gets a little overwhelming, so please do put that in the Q&A and they'll make sure to get to it during the Q&A session. And then third, there is going to be a short survey that pops up after you exit the webcast. If you could just take a minute to let us know what you thought of today's session and what you might like to see in the future, that would be really helpful for us. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to introduce Michael Roy to introduce our speakers.
All right. Thanks, Julianne. Really appreciate that. All right. Just make sure I'm sending it on high quality here. Don't want to come into the 720p crap. 1080 all the way. Hello, friends. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Michael Roy, your window and liaison into the VMware by Broadcom, aka VCF division within VMware at Broadcom. So again, thanks, Julianne, and thanks for everybody being with us today. So I'm here today with another installment of our ongoing webinar series here, trying to basically educate and do everything that we can to help the community of our admins, like yourself, be successful with VCF and all of the new VMware by Broadcom offerings. So today, as mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about AI. Now, if I could tell my child self that I would be doing, an intro presentation on artificial intelligence, here I am in my 40s, I don't think I would have believed it. But here we are. And I mean, it's obviously in a lot of discussion today, and the reality is that it's here, right? It's not no longer this like science fiction. It's like we've got it all, right here in the palm of our hand. And so, you may have heard your leadership or whomever asking, hey, what are we doing with AI in your organization? So that leaves you with a few choices, right? You can pick one of the players, you can do it yourself. And if you do it yourself, goodness, that's a lot of work, right? But if you're a VMware admin, that gives you a bit of an edge. So you can either roll your own bare metal solution and introduces an entirely new silo for you to manage. But if you're a VMware shop, you have a well-polished solution that's ready to go, built on top of NVIDIA, the leading, everything's built on top of CUDA a lot of the time, and NVIDIA is who makes that. And you can integrate that with your existing infrastructure without having to backflip and manage an entirely new silo of infrastructure. AI is going to continue to shape the future of businesses and organizations today. You got to navigate all these complexities, right? You got to deploy it privately. It's got to be secure. It's got to be scalable. It's got to integrate with how you manage your entire IT infrastructure and your environment. VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA, it's leading the way. It offers you next generation platform for enterprises and organizations of, that scale and size. You can customize and fine tune large language models, pull them off the shelf, tweak them as you need, and you can deploy these secure and private models into your own internal production. Run that stuff off your own data, keep it inside of your purview, your private cloud, really emphasizing on the private part of that private cloud. So in this session, we got a couple experts from Broadcom here. I've got my good friend Shobit Bhutani and Justin Murray. They're both with us backstage. They're going to showcase some of the latest advancements in this platform, including some of the cutting edge applications and capabilities that were unveiled the last year. I'm going to bring you up to speed with where we're going, and we're going to look a little bit at some of those future capabilities. So we're going to learn how VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA is set to tackle enterprises' evolving demands by addressing these privacy, security, cost, performance, and compliance concerns in the new era of AI, if you will. So we're going to have some demos. We're going to highlight some new tools and features, and we're going to show how VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA can really help drive the future of generative AI in your organizations and really help you unleash new levels of productivity. I mean, I don't know how much stuff I can certainly get done using these chat agents, but having it built off of my own internal data is an incredible tool. So with that, I'm going to call up Shobit up to the front of the house. And to start us off, hi, my friend, take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michael, for that great introduction. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Shobhit Bhutani. I work as the product marketing lead here at Broadcom for VMware Private AI and Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA. After I get done, Justin Murray, my close partner in arms, who's product marketing engineers at Broadcom as well, he's going to join and take you through a more, take you through a demo and other kind of capabilities and things like that as well. So really excited to talk to everybody. Let's go and get started. As Michael had kind of introduced in the beginning, we're going to talk about AI, Gen AI, right? What they are, how they're different and similar. What is the challenges of Gen AI? How is Broadcom solving these challenges? And then finally, use cases, key features, resources, and then Justin's going to do some demos, etc. as well.
Before we move on, I just want to double check if you were sharing a slide.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. Thank you, and sorry to the audience.
It's all good. We cut it early this time.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you pointed that out. Sorry about that.
All right, you got it. Aces, off to you.
Thank you, Michael. All right, so let's just jump right in. So this is the agenda, like I was just sharing: importance of Gen AI, solution, use cases, key features, resources, and demos. So let's jump in, right? IT applications have gone through some revolutionary innovations over the last 20, 30, 40 years or so. And as you can see, the revolution of PC apps, web apps, mobile apps, etc., has gone on. We're now on to the next generation of innovation led by AI and Gen AI. And Broadcom expects AI to be part of all applications within the next 3 to 5 year time frame. It's almost like, if you remember the days of Kubernetes, right? Kubernetes came out 10-ish years back as a project from Google, and it was like the coolest thing ever. But now, like, nobody talks about Kubernetes as a new thing. It's an expectation that it's part of your applications, it's compatible, it's integrated. AI is going to be the same way. That's Broadcom's position. It's going to be integrated in all applications across the board, and every business will be using it. If they're not, or if you are not, I suggest getting on this right away and start talking about this internally. I mean, now saying that, most enterprises at this point have gotten really cognizant of this new wave and are jumping on. Now, one question that we get asked, right, is what's the difference between AI, predictive AI and Gen AI? Has AI just started? Absolutely not. AI has been around for 60, 70, 80 years or so, somewhere in that space, depending on when you would say is the starting point of AI, right? And AI, predictive AI, from the standpoint of what predictive AI is, where it all started, right? Predictive AI is specialized AI models which supply certain specific applications, so to speak. It has certain use cases and is very single use kind of centric, right? The Gen AI, however, is about generating text, images, etc., and it has applications across the board, right? Like if you think about marketing, right? For example, writing copy, writing press releases, doing social media, things like that. There's a ton of applications. When you get into IT, security, etc., there's a lot of applications there as well. If you think about like contact centers, which are looking to get information quickly about the different issues. For example, if somebody calls into a contact center or call center and is looking to get troubleshooting assistance, takes a lot of times to do find information to help the customer. So that's why generative AI can really help do all that document search, procedure search, document search and technical search, etc., really, really quickly. And that's why generative AI is, people are getting so excited about it. All departments want to get on it. Like you see on the right-hand side from, HR, sales, etc., there's applications across the board. So, and Gen AI is based on, large language models and, having natural language interactions with the large language models. So it becomes easy to interact and get information. Now, so the most important thing here is AI has been around for 60, 70, 80 years. If you think about, stuff that we've done in the last 20, 30 years from a tech industry, if you think about Facebook, Netflix, things like that, you look at all those suggestions. If you've been shopping in Amazon, which I assume most people are, the suggestions that come out, that's great examples of what AI is doing, credit rating, fraud, things like that. So that's predictive AI. Gen AI is about generating text, generating images, generating video. So that's the difference between both of them. And these large language models are the base of them all. They get, you can get tons and tons of information that you can extract. And the big thing here is LLMs, or large language models, or LLMs, right? You naturally interact with it from a natural language perspective. So it becomes really easy. So LLMs is where Gen AI kind of starts, so to speak. And the impact of this is supposed to be really, really huge, right? And I think at this point, everyone kind of understands the impacts. The impact of this is going to be $4.4 trillion is the expectation in the next 2 to 3 years or so. And this annual impact value, economic value, so to speak, this is a number that came from a McKinsey survey. And it's basically, if you take the top 64 use cases of Gen AI, what is going to be the value add across all industries from this, all businesses across from this, and that's the projection that McKinsey has given us, right? So it's a massive number. This number is the projection for 2028, right? Now I would not be surprised if the expectation of 2028 gets revised even further, right? The applications of Gen AI are tremendous. From drug research, right? Because there's a lot of AI, synthetic AI that needs to be generated outside of what the large language models produce. There's always more data that's needed, and so using some AI, using some real data, Gen AI can actually come up with synthetic data based on models, etc. And so that's where Gen AI becomes so powerful. And by the way, please keep putting questions in chat. I'm sure Justin can look at them as he goes, or we definitely make sure to answer them before the close of this. Now, what is the key issues with Gen AI, however, though? Gen AI, as exciting it is, right? It's all about data, right? So you take these large language models and you can extract a bunch of information from them. It's useful. However, where Gen AI becomes extremely useful is you take these large language models and you customize, right, these models and fine-tune these models by taking your own information from your enterprise. You kind of merge them, right? That's where customization and fine-tuning is kind of the term comes in. You merge that information from your enterprise data, and now you have this very powerful model which has your information as well as it's got information from these large language models that you got from a free resource somewhere, or you paid somebody for it. Facebook, Meta, NVIDIA, a lot of companies produce these. You can go to Hugging Face, a company, which is, and you can go to their site and just download, I think they have 1 million plus large language models that are open source. And you can just download them and start using them. Right. So when you merge your data into this generative AI model, there's the biggest concern that customers talk to us about is the concerns of privacy, right? Why? Because there is concerns about intellectual property, right? The fact is your intellectual property is inside this Gen AI, it's inside this Gen AI model, and you can have concerns about privacy of your data. You have privacy of access, right? So what does privacy of data mean? So let's start with IP for a second. So you can go in, for example, today to any like freely available Gen AI model. There's a ton of free models as well. You don't need to actually buy anything, right? There's models available for free. You can put in whatever information in there. Gen AI or AI in general will take that information and use it for improving the answer, is what we call training the data, right? Or improving the data. And so improving the answer for next time. So if somebody puts in confidential information, confidential enterprise information, like for example, you may have a product launch coming up. So you may put in saying, hey, tell me how I can market this better, right? And you put it into this model, freely available model. And guess what? It's going to suck in all that information. And now your corporate intellectual property is gone. Same way your private data can be gone as well. There's actually been examples in which there's certain companies, when the Gen AI started a couple of years back, right, really got a lot of buzzword, right, buzz around it. Gen AI has been around for a while as well, about 10-ish years or so. But really when it got a lot of buzz was a certain company released their Gen AI model. And it starts, everybody knows that company, and it became very popular. Some coders put in some information, some confidential information, and that information was lost. And so it's not, when I say lost, means it got sucked in by the external model. And that model, nobody really knows if that information is now safe or not, right? So you can read up about it. It's a very well-known case. It's a company that's outside the United States and Asia who faced this situation. And so that's where the IP and their data, the privacy of their data became at risk. So that's why Gen AI, as interesting as it is, if you use a freely available model, there's a huge risk with it. Finally, there's access, right? So if you think about that example I was giving earlier, right, where you fine-tuned your Gen AI model, now who is able to access this is an issue as well. Because if you have this customized model, if it's going to have confidential financial data, it's going to have confidential software code in there, it's going to have confidential product information. So all of those become concerns to enterprises, right? So, and this is something enterprises have told us a lot about. And so aside from privacy, there's always cost, right? Whenever you have something that is very bleeding edge model, right? Bleeding edge, software related or IT initiative, then there's always cost concerns, right? What if you get sucked into buying this Gen AI model or Gen AI infrastructure for somebody, and now you're stuck to their infrastructure forever? Then costs can go up. And in general, right, there's always new things and new technologies that are coming up to enhance your Gen AI, enhance Gen AI at this point. So cost can easily go very high. Choice, right? Large language models are coming up really, really fast now. The power, like I was explaining earlier, of Gen AI comes through large language models. Gen AI models, the choice of large language models is tremendously increasing. In our case, for example, we were on Llama 1, Llama 2 just last year, and now we're on Llama 3, and potentially we're going to move faster here quickly as well. And in a lot of cases, different enterprises for their different businesses, different departments are looking for different large language models. And so that's why they want to have the flexibility of choice. Compliance becomes a big concern. If you've customized your Gen AI model and it has all your secret information, confidential information, so to speak, compliance becomes a big issue, especially in regions like EMEA, where compliance is a very, very massively controlled thing, so to speak. Finally, performance, right? Large Gen AI models are complex, right? You need a lot of infrastructure, and this is why performance remains a very important thing. And here's a quick thing. IDC did this survey and found, if you can see, most of our customers are looking for privacy and security as one of the most important things. If you look both from model development as well as model deployment, there, privacy and security comes out on the top, like 37%, 26%, 36, 36. And if you go down, there's other security concerns, et cetera, as well. The top three are the most important ones to look at on this slide. And so this is now coming out of actual, data that a survey that IDC had done across about 450 or so enterprises. And this is why Broadcom has released VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA in partnership with NVIDIA. So this is a joint platform where privacy and security of your data as well as your infrastructure is the most important thing that we have put together for you. And so it starts with all the OEMs at the bottom, Dell Technology, HP, et cetera, the supported OEMs. Then if you go to the next layer, VMware Cloud Foundation provides the infrastructural layer on which you can spin up the GenAI applications. And VCF gives tremendous amounts of flexibility to customers. The next on top of that, right, is this blue layer here, which we call, see these capabilities, which we call the Private AI Foundation's add-on on top of VCF. So this add-on service is basically an additional SKU, right? You have to pay for that SKU, which gives you a lot of capabilities to basically get to AI faster, get your infrastructure to AI ready, so to speak, faster. And so that's what you get from that SKU. It's tons of different capabilities that come with it. And we'll go through some of these capabilities here shortly. Then on top is NVIDIA AI Enterprise. This is basically a third SKU that customers are required to buy. The enterprises have to buy to get the to get the capabilities of this platform. And NVIDIA Enterprise is a subscription service, right? It gives the customers a lot of these services like NIM, Nemo Retriever, Blueprint, NIM Operator, et cetera, which basically now getting after your infrastructure is ready because of Broadcom's capabilities, right? Now you can take, actually download GenAI models from NVIDIA and now start putting up applications on top of it, right? So that's the models is the fourth layer, so to speak, on the top here. And this is basically NVIDIA Foundation model, the optimized models from NVIDIA, and then third-party and community model, whichever they support. So this layer, so to speak, is what composes this platform. And this really helps customers, enterprises can, take all the benefits of GenAI. Now, why are customers choosing this platform, right? Like, we're getting a lot of success with it. We announced this platform in 2023, if I remember correctly. And this product just went generally available about 9 months back or so. We're getting hundreds and hundreds of leads, and we've actually have now 39 customers that have already bought from us and are in various stages of deployment. And then we have a massive pipeline on top of these 39 customers that are already deployed. So why are customers choosing Private AI Foundation, right? Is speed and agility is the big one, right? Is the fact that customers can very quickly take, all the benefits of VCF and actually spin up, using all the capabilities, easily deploy, GenAI models on top. That's the number one. Resource sharing, right? GPUs are expensive, as we know, right? And we want to get the maximum capabilities out of GPUs. So in partnership with NVIDIA, we've given you the ability to virtualize the GPUs, right? And then share these GPUs across your infrastructure. There's something called a vGPU technology that NVIDIA invented 10 years back or so. And now we've had this technology embedded into this platform. So virtualization of GPUs comes as part of the platform. And vGPU technology, by the way, we've had for 10 plus years or now, even before this AI phase started. The most important capability that we provide, right, on top is something what we call the distributed resources scheduler. This scheduler basically moves workloads dynamically to make sure that you're always deploying the maximum amount of, you're using all your GPUs at all times. Lower TCO, I'll have a slide here shortly. The against our competitors, we're actually doing really well from a TCO perspective. The numbers are tremendous. Centralized operations. VCF, think about VCF as a infrastructure which can deploy anything, right? It can deploy any workload. And AI for us, for VCF, is just another workload. So if you have, database workload, or you have certain applications that you're already running on VCF, guess what? It's very easy to use the VCF infrastructure and the VCF centralized operations to now very easily deploy GenAI on top of it. And finally, privacy, right? We promise privacy and security, and that is the biggest thing that this VCF helps enable, is privacy and security of your data as well as your GenAI model. And we'll provide some more details here shortly. TCO against comparable public clouds, we're 90% lower, right? And against a bare metal environment, we're 65% lower. And those numbers, as huge as they sound, they're actually, we have our performance and estimate numbers come from the Broadcom TCO calculator. So we have data and all those details your sellers can actually go through with you to show you the breakdown of some of that information as well. And why do we have this, right? We provide unified infrastructure, provide unified operations, right? And we give you top performance, right, on top of it, right? So combined between all three of these, right, is the fact that if any workload you have, guess what? You have a unified infrastructure on which you're just spinning up another application. And then you have unified operations, one way to manage your workload versus trying to spin up newer ways to kind of monitor those operations. When you take all of those combined, is why we do so well against our competitors. Again, your sellers can go through a lot more detail on this with you. I was mentioning it, VCF is just another workload on top of, VCF is just another platform for GenAI workloads. You can scale quickly, you have centralized operations, you have optimized cost, and you have these customized dashboards. All in all, that's why we do so well for providing you those costs, as well as giving you a fantastic experience for your GenAI models. This is how traditional workloads look like, right? You have to basically come up with compute, networking, storage, security, packager deployment, monitor, etc. And then anytime you have any updates, etc., then you have to restart that entire process. When you look at VCF, you get everything prepackaged as one product, right? Everything operates easily. You have a centralized dashboard where you can monitor your entire environment, include your AI environment, right? Which is kind of what's most interesting here. And so this is why VCF comes out as a great platform for your AI needs. The second part of the second part of the third part of the stack actually that I'd shared with you is the NVIDIA AI Enterprise. NVIDIA Enterprise provides the production grade software for GenAI. What that gives you is the ability to do basically, get you the fastest paths to your LLMs, right? So they give NVIDIA NIMs, they provide AI microservices, and NVIDIA NIMs are basically prepackaged containers. And in those prepackaged containers, you have GenAI models, you have, CUDA libraries, you have software libraries, all etc. already packaged into one, right? And so you can when you sign up for NVIDIA AI Enterprise, you get the biggest ability to be able to download all these containers easily, and now easily start spinning up your GenAI applications on top of it. So the key thing here to remember is just like VCF gives you all this ability to spin up GenAI, in your infrastructure. NVIDIA AI Enterprise actually gives you the ability to actually pull down these NIMs and a whole bunch of other containers and software libraries, etc. So you can easily start deploying GenAI on top of it. On top of it, security, stability, manageability, support, things like that, patching, daily kind of, making sure that you have support from an infrastructure standpoint. that comes as part of NVIDIA Enterprise as well. And finally, you have the ability to easily have a, easily take NVIDIA Enterprise and be able to deploy it on your infrastructure. And so the way we talk about Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA is we're able to unlock, enterprises can unlock Gen AI and unleash productivity with it. There is 3 key pillars, so to speak, we talk about. It's privacy, security, and compliance. The number one, like we promised, is privacy and security, right? So that's a very important part. Very closely related to that is compliance. You simplify Gen AI deployment and optimize costs, right? Due to the, and I've talked a lot about the cost model, et cetera, already as well. And then finally, you accelerate performance, right? The infrastructure is very well set up for getting the most out of your infrastructure and getting the top level performance. So these are the 3 most value add, so to speak, your benefits you get from VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA. And we'll start going into the detail here in a minute. What are the use cases that you get from it, right? So when you deploy these Gen AI models, you get, most importantly, you get the ability to deploy code gen, right? And code generation is very, very interesting, that a lot of enterprises are telling us a lot about. You basically take, you deploy your code gen models, and now you can easily start taking a lot of get code generation across the board. And a lot of customers are telling us that, whenever they've deployed code generation across their enterprises, across the enterprise, they can get, almost 30, 40, 50% of the code generation actually goes to the code gen, versus developers actually having to do it. And our code generation goes across all departments, as you can understand. So this is the number one use case that customers tell us about. Contact centers, I talked a little bit about it. So in general, customers are looking for fast customer service. And so code, and this is where Gen AI models can help tremendously, where they can give quick answers to contact center agents while they're looking for responses. And so the customer experience can be tremendously better for contact centers. Agentic AI, this is a new thing where you take basically routine tasks and you come up with agents that are going to go do this for the customers. The agentic AI is expected to kick in tremendously. Over the course of next 3 to 5 years, there's the model projections are saying that there's going to be billions potentially agents that's going to do a whole bunch of different tasks for enterprises. So there's a very fast-moving, interesting space. Advanced information retrieval. Think about document search, document policy, procedure search, things like that. This is where this is another very, very powerful Gen AI use cases, and VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA gives you the ability to do all 4 of those use cases. So privacy, security, compliance for your models. So VCF provides enhanced security, right? There's a whole bunch of capabilities that come through VCF. There's also secure boot, things like that, as the screen is kind of showing. Enterprise grade security with NVIDIA Enterprise, like I was saying, Gen AI model space being so fast moving at this point, there is a whole bunch of vulnerabilities and a whole bunch of issues that are there in this space. And this is what NVIDIA Enterprise provides and gives you enterprise grade support, enterprise grade security as well. And then VCF obviously enables modern security and access management for infrastructure, et cetera. So privacy and security, the most important promise of this platform, we're delivering this for you. VCF offers multi-layer privacy and isolation. There's 6 levels of tenancy and tenancy models for better privacy and isolation, versus in a traditional Kubernetes bare metal environment, you have only 2, right? So that's the massive difference here, only 1, sorry, right? So this is a big, like, inbuilt security comes as part of VCF. So moving on to the next one, implementing model governance and security. So this is the first capability that we announced, last year, and it's now generally available. So as part of the Private AI add-on service, we give this capability where customers, when you take models, right, there is right now no real governance measures, right, for downloading and deployment of LLMs. So anybody can deploy anything. What Model Store does is it gives you the ability to now curate, and the admins can now assign only certain models that can be deployed in their platforms, right? So the admins or a team of people now get the control through this capability, and this is a hardware-based capability in vSphere for vSphere fans on the call. So through this, only secure LLMs are released to the environment. NVIDIA Enterprise, like I was saying, has a lot of different, has centralized security and security stability that they provide through their enterprise support. And a lot of this is not a star diagram, I promise you. It just shows the thousands of vulnerabilities and how NVIDIA Enterprise can control by giving you a centralized one platform on how to manage all of these. Simplify GenAI deployments and optimize costs. What this means is basically giving you the best experience, right? So there's capabilities that are already embedded, right, as part of this platform, as part of the service, add-on service that you get when you buy this platform. And so these are the capabilities that were given to really speed up your GenAI deployments and give you the best cost and performance, best cost. NVIDIA RAG. So RAG is obviously at this point pretty well-known phenomenon. RAG gets you better answers, gives you better answers quickly. And so for deploying RAG, however, you need the software or the algorithm, and that's what NVIDIA provides. And we provide vector databases, right? So this basically gives the ability to do fast querying of data. So you have your data inside this vector database. And so instead of now going back to your main model, you just go to the vector database, right? And you get your answers much quickly. But the software for that is enabled through NVIDIA RAG, and Broadcom provides the vector database for that. Deep learning VM templates. The big thing about Broadcom, about GenAI models, is you need a whole bunch of software libraries, you need software code, you need to be able to connect to what we call the NVIDIA NGC catalog, which is basically the catalog that you get access to when you subscribe to NVIDIA Enterprise. And that NGC catalog has thousands of containers, etc. You need to pull specific software libraries, you need to pull software code, etc., and models. And so the deep learning VM templates give you VM templates in which all of those are automatically set up for you. You just pull those templates, and now you can easily deploy VMs across your environment with all of those capabilities already put inside those VM templates, so you don't actually have to do this manually. Guided deployment, catalog setup wizard. And so spinning up a VCF workload domain for GenAI models can be sometimes a little bit hard. And this guided deployment gives you step-by-step capabilities to be able to go press a button and do some minor configuration, and it takes you through the entire process much more quicker versus doing it manually. And catalog setup wizard is basically the ability to rapidly create, customize, and give the admin the ability to curate certain models, curate certain complex items so that can be easily replicated when you're doing GenAI models. So if you think about the common theme across all of these, right, is we're giving the admin the ability to do quickly, set up, to quickly move on, and quickly be able to do GenAI models quickly. And that's what the simplify GenAI deployment and optimize cost piece means. And let's try to move it. It's going to take a second. Sorry, just 1 second. Technical difficulty. NIMs, like I was saying, is models that GenAI models and a whole bunch of software libraries, things like that you're able to easily pull down from the NGC catalog. And NIM by itself has a LLM and a whole bunch of software, etc., already embedded inside of it. And there's Llama 3, Mixtrail, etc. All of these different NIMs are available once a customer signs up to take NVIDIA Enterprise licensing. Reduced guided deployment, I talked a little bit about it. You basically have the step-by-step process and an easy button, so to speak, so you can move quickly through the entire process. Talked a little bit about vector databases as well. I'll talk a little bit about deep learning VM templates as well. And that catalog setup wizard is the last thing I'll talk before I hand it off to Justin. Basically, LOB admins can now take and quickly curate and offer optimized infrastructure catalog objects, right? So what that means is, other than doing VMs, etc., you also need to do some very complex activities and spin up complex objects, right? Sometimes when you're spinning up your GenAI models. So what this capability does is, in an automated fashion, the infrastructure admin can actually assign these complex objects, right? As you can see on the right-hand side, these catalog items is what we call them. But really what these catalog items are complex software libraries, software objects that you can actually pull together and make it into a catalog item that's available. So next time around, either the infrastructure admin or maybe a higher level admin like a VI admin, etc., wants to go do, spin up use those catalog items, they don't actually have to go start from scratch. They can just take those curated items and then just go spin up and take the next step in the process. So with that, I am going to now hand this off to Justin.
Thanks very much, Shobit. Thank you.
Sure.
And I'll share my screen here. Okay, so you've got a lot of information from Shobit here, very good introduction to it. I think you've picked up the theme so far that we're going to help you with a lot of automation. Some of that automation is setting up the workload domain, setting up the ESXi hosts, deploying NSX for you, setting up the supervisor cluster, which, as you know, is an additional Kubernetes cluster that's integrated tightly into VMware to do essentially management of Kubernetes in general, management of workload clusters and deep learning VMs. A lot of this setup is already simplified for you. There are even Power CLI scripts to do this work if you wanted to do that, if you're very interested in that. So Shobit talked about optimizing your environment for performance. We're going to look at that a little bit in the GPU monitoring next. He also mentioned NVIDIA NIM, NVIDIA Inference Microservice is what that stands for. That's essentially a runtime for models, and it's a very clever runtime in the sense that it can, if you're connected to the internet, go out to NVIDIA's website, their NGC, NVIDIA GPU Cloud, and fetch down the version of the model that is most appropriately tuned for your environment. You might have one GPU or two GPUs or more than that. It will fetch the appropriate engine to drive the model under best performance conditions. That's where we're getting the performance from. And of course, we want to supply you with a choice of LLMs. Just this week, as you may have seen, and as Michael pointed out, a new version of the Llama models from Meta/Facebook appeared, with the principal thing about them is better accuracy and better performance. And so all of the major players in this business of open source models or open weights models are really doing us all a favor by competing on performance and accuracy. So you can get that choice in using VMware. And we suggest you bring down one of those models, carefully vet it, and I'll show you how you vet it, and then deploy it alongside a vector database in a RAG design. Essentially, RAG is a combination of the vector database, Postgres in our case with PG Vector, and a model. So given that you've done that, what happens on day 2? Well, here's a scene from VMware operations or VCF operations where we're trying to discover how well are my GPUs used. And if you look in the middle at the GPU memory usage there on that particular cluster, on that particular host, the top one, you can see 99% memory usage. This is not necessarily a bad thing. This means I'm using all the memory that I've got, and GPUs can be expensive items. You really want to see the efficiency with which you're deploying these applications. How well am I deploying them? How well are my GPUs being utilized? How much capacity do I have left to deploy more things? These are things that come naturally for us as VMware people, as infrastructure management people. We want to see once everything's been deployed, and I'll go into the deployment with you. We want to see how efficient and how optimized is it. And this is a screen also from operations. You knew this as RE operations. It's now called VCF operations. Each of the colored blocks on this beautiful diagram represents a physical GPU in a server, where the server is in the name on the top. And what we're seeing here is green is good. Red is only bad in the sense that it's underutilization of these GPUs. We chose that red color to make it more dramatic here. We'd probably change that in production to blue. Red is always assigned to a person to get out of their seat and get going to solve this. But here, red simply means these GPUs have more capacity for more applications to use them. And as you can see in the topology at the bottom, you can trace which application is using which GPU down to the cluster level, down to the machine level, down to the individual GPU level if you see a problem and you want to trace it. So we're giving you lots and lots of visibility, and there's more to come on this. It was mentioned before that there are lots of models around in the world. There are NVIDIA models, there are NVIDIA-tuned models, and then there are open source models or open weights models available from Hugging Face, which is kind of the GitHub of the model world, the place where everybody stores their open source, open weights models. And one thing you'll need to do there is carefully check that that model is a good one, accurate, performing, not biased, not hallucinating, not making mistakes. You do that with any model. We'll get into that process in our demo here in a second. But there is a wide choice. You can commit yourself to NVIDIA's models if you like, or you can go entirely to third-party models that are out there that you've decided are optimal for you. And a friend of mine the other day said, I need to generate some abstracts for submissions of talks. He happened to use one version of a model from Google. Another model is very good at mathematics. Another model is very good at image processing. Models have different specialties, and different models are suitable to different things. So now I'm going to take you through a kind of life cycle of using private AI in a real world situation where there is that huge amount of models out there for you to choose from, top left-hand side there, including NVIDIA's models. And let's say we want to pull one of those models down. You can see the pull model step there that uses the NVIDIA GPU Cloud, NGC CLI, to do that. That's already built into our deep learning VM image. We've done that for you. We've also built in a CLI into the deep learning VM on the left-hand side there to push a model up into a repository or a gallery or a model store. This is the kind of authorized place for your enterprise. This is Harbor running on premises at your site. And this is an authorized place for models that have been tested. So in this deep learning VM on the left-hand side, which we're going to see in real life in a second, we're doing some preliminary testing to ensure we have a good quality model. Once it's pushed up, then a developer can pull that model on the top right-hand side down into a runtime. This could be the NIM, or it could be another runtime. There's a runtime from University of California, Berkeley that's won a lot of acclaim in the open source world called VLLM. And people like to use that, and we support that. So there is a choice of model runtimes here. And then they might use it with data indexing and retrieval, which is a method of encoding your private data in a database. And they would build some sort of RAG agent with all that to deliver an application, deliver in the first example, a chatbot application based on retrieval augmented generation. Think of retrieval augmented generation as the combination of a large language model running in that model runtime with a database that is being accessed by the data indexing and retrieval piece. So that's kind of the full life cycle. Both of those sides, the teal colored side with DLVM namespace written there, that could be just a single VM, a single AI workstation, which we'll see. The right-hand side could also be a single VM, or it could be a fully fledged Kubernetes cluster running these model runtimes that we'll supply to you. So we'll see this in a second in action, and we'll do a demo of it. But just to give you a taste of what's coming from us, on top of the Private AI Foundation that Shobit described just now, we want to give you even better visibility of your virtual GPUs. Up to now, you can see your physical GPUs, but what about your virtual GPUs, which are like virtual CPUs? They're a representation of the physical GPU. With virtual GPUs, though, you can share a GPU across 2 VMs or more. You can vMotion that GPU, that VM that contains that virtual GPU from one server to another. So we want to give you visibility of all that. We also want to give you better indexing of data so that you can retrieve data from that vector database quicker. We want to give you an agent builder service so as you can build applications in a very streamlined way. And finally, we want you to be able to reserve a GPU in advance. So you have an important application that needs 2 A100 or 2 H100 GPUs. We want you to, in the same way you'd book a hotel room, book those 2 GPUs even before you get there with your application so that there is no doubt in the world that you will have them when your application is ready to start up. So all of this is brand new, new features coming in an upcoming release. The visibility is probably the most appealing from a user interface perspective. What I'm seeing on the right-hand side is the vSphere client that we all know and love. And the individual line items in the table are consumption of different vGPU profiles or different shapes and sizes of GPU usage. How many are consumed, how many are remaining, and what the maximum is. And there are some fine details here about constrained I won't get into. This is a very comprehensive view for the first time ever in our next release of how virtual GPUs relate to the physical consumption. We also have this capability to say, if I have 2 GPUs here, GPU 1 and GPU 2, and somebody has occupied those 2 GPUs with their 40 gigabyte profile, 40 gigabytes is exactly half of a contemporary A100 or H100. It's got 80 gigabyte total. Then there is space available, but not enough space to take that new workload that I want to bring in, which needs all 80 gigabytes. So with a reservation, I fix this problem by saying that GPU on the right-hand side is reserved from the day I first place my reservation, and no VM can enter that space until I get there. So my workload is privileged. It's got a reservation on that 80 gigabyte GPU, and nobody else gets in there other than me. So that's a new concept, hasn't been around before, coming up in a upcoming release. This is a view into what an agent looks like. And this is a customer support agent. Typically, the application types that people deploy first are something to do with a chatbot for a customer support agent to get answers to questions that are about data that is internal to the company. For example, if I'm trying to answer a question on what's coming up for vGPUs on the next release of VMware VCF, I could consult an internal chatbot, get a summary of 50 to 100 documents that describe that, summarize it into a single paragraph, and display it on my screen so that I can quickly summarize for you if you're asking me a question about it. Well, this is the construction phase of that. It's a construction phase, which we call the agent builder, that uses knowledge bases, these are vector databases, uses data sources, and uses the runtime, the model runtime, all to construct an application. So this is also new, and you'll see that in an upcoming release. And as you can see here, there's some setup in advance that you need to do. You need to have your model in a Harbor repository. You need to have your data indexed correctly, and we help you with that. And then you can create the application. The idea is to make the application creation process as simple as possible here. You don't need to be a data scientist to do it. Okay, so that's a quick run through of what's coming up next. We believe VMware Private AI Foundation, based on VMware Cloud Foundation, is the best platform you could choose for doing Gen AI and private AI in general. This platform allows you to fine-tune and customize large language models, deploy workflows that make up that retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, which is the combination of the database and the model together, and run inference workloads, which are particularly interesting to us in data centers for privacy, choice, and cost. So let's see that in action now, very briefly here, so that we come away with an impression of what it looks like. So if I go to full screen here and start this up, what we're doing here is choosing from the catalog of items inside automation, and we're choosing to deploy a simple workstation, a single VM, and we're supplying two important things. What's the GPU power and what's the software I need? And it's PyTorch in this case. And 5 minutes later, we've got a working VM that we've logged into now, and we're running a model runtime inside it called Triton Inference Server here. So at this point, we're logged into our new deep learning VM, our AI workstation, and we're downloading a model from Hugging Face that we want to try out. We want to test it, see if it's suitable to our purposes, to see if it's got bias, to see if it's got hallucinations. So this process here is the process of downloading that model. We did that using Triton import. We could have just NGC pulled it from NVIDIA if we wanted to use that version of the model. And here's the model now downloaded. There's our directory structure that makes up that model. It's a whole bunch of files, quite large files in some cases, gigabytes, but we speeded this up so that you weren't waiting for it. Now we're actually running the model under Triton, the large language model runtime from NVIDIA. And so that model is running, and we're going to post a request to it using curl and say, generate a Python script for me that will calculate the prime numbers. This is just a very simple hello world. And there's the script at the bottom there. It's got \n in it. It's a bit ugly, but it is a script that would work in Python to generate prime numbers. Now, here's the important part. This part is scanning the model now, and I won't go into the code here, but we're using a framework called Giscard for this, which is firing 500 questions at our model to test how accurate and how performant and how unbiased and how complete this model is. This is like running CVE checking on your software. And in fact, CVE checking is done on models as well. What we're doing here is asking lots of questions of the model. In fact, we're using a large language model to ask those questions of our newly downloaded Hugging Face model to see if it actually is behaving itself or not. And you'll see a report in a few seconds from this work that we're doing here. The work is done by a framework called Giscard that you see at the bottom. And you'll see the results printed out in the report that we'll see here in 1 second once that process is done. Okay, so we've got the Python. We run that. This is now checking the quality of the model that we downloaded from Hugging Face a few steps back. And it's firing a lot of questions at the model. And eventually it will come back and say, okay, I scanned the model and here are the things I found. And you can see on the top there in categories, harmfulness, hallucination. Hallucination here means making answers up to questions instead of finding the answer in the database, the vector database, which models can do. And this is our approach is use RAG, use that vector database as your master copy of the data, and feed any records from that database into your model to make sure that it doesn't hallucinate or create answers that are inappropriate. And there are other types of conditions here as well. So very quickly, we found some issues. Now it's time for the data scientists to step in and amend the model to fix these issues, place guardrails around it to fix any of these. Given that that's been done, we'll assume that somebody is doing that, and we've fixed our model and tested it. We're now going to say, okay, we validate that model. We're pushing the model now up into Harbor so that people can use it in applications. It's been tested. And there's about 60 seconds left in this demo. So we'll now pull the model down on the developer side. This is somebody building an application. They're listing all the models they can see. You can see their revisions and names of those models here. And we can list those at the command line, or we can actually use the Harbor UI, which you're seeing here for the same models. We can get the models that way as well. We support this fully on-premises Harbor, which is a nice place to keep your local containers, but it's also a place to keep your models. And here, what we're doing now is firing up a second environment, a second VM, in which we're going to run that model in a production application. So this now is running the model that we've just downloaded from the Harbor repository and running it in inference mode with a vector database in a RAG design so that we can get the best possible performance out of this. And here are the specifications of the GPU. This is simply the internals of VCF automation. This is the end result. And we've pulled down our model here from Harbor. And the instant we do that, the automation is going to recognize that it's down into a local directory, and we will be able to see the model in action right here. So we can see all the details of how the model worked, and we can fire a request at it to check its accuracy and its performance for us. So that's a very quick run through there of model store and other features that are available to us in VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA. So to learn more about all this, you could look at this QRC code here. There's a web page that you can go to on VMware.com, Broadcom.com as well. There are lots of blogs about this where you can learn more. And there's a contact form here in the QRC if you want to contact us and get deeper into a POC in your own enterprise on this work. And we'll guide you through that. We have a team of people who will guide you into that. And thank you for your time today. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Justin.
All right.
All right, guys.
Julian's coming out just to send us off, but just want to thank everybody for joining today. There's going to be a survey at the end of this. So by all means, let us know how we're doing and what we can do better going forward. And I hope that the links that Shobit send out this will be available on demand and stuff. So you'll be able to take care of all this content. And it'll be available to you guys in the VMUG library.
Hope I wasn't too rushed there in the last section.
Well, that's the nice thing about on demand is that it's recorded for posterity. So you can always look at it later and slow it down. But I think hopefully at the very least it gets folks to take a look at what we've talked about and then go into that QR code and explore more and take it from there.
Yeah.
So I have one question. I know that we're over, but it's a very simple question. So we talk a lot about building things from scratch, and I promise hopefully this is going to be quick. But what about commercial off-the-shelf applications? Is there is there enough of those that are out now that you can just sort of buy something off the shelf, drop it into the environment, and everything works and it's great? Or are we still sort of building things from scratch at this point in the AI evolution?
That's a great question, Michael. I think the world will evolve to that state that you're describing, there'll be off-the-shelf things. I think, recent business reports have said people are tired of hearing how to build your application on AI. What they want now is, give me the application, give me the full thing, right? So as I mentioned, the first successful application is chatbots. So you could see that companies make a living out of delivering you a full-scale AI-driven chatbot. As an example of what you're saying. The gift card test program that I showed you is another example. That's a sort of get it out of the box, deploy it on your system, and it's a test bed for you to test models against. And there will be a lot of these. There will be a lot of.
It sounds like we're not quite there yet as far as you can just go to some catalog and buy things and then they're all ready to go and wired up. It's just but we're close, it sounds like.
We're getting there. And Codium that Shobit mentioned, which is our solution for code generation, is another example. You get this deployed on Kubernetes and it's up and running and generating code for you. That sort of thing is going to become more widespread than the few examples I gave you. Customer support applications. And the people who do that well today, like Salesforce or SAP, they will build LLMs into their applications as well, so that you won't even know it's there, but you're getting better answers. I mean, that's happening with browsers already. If you know the generate step that you see it's there whether you like it or not, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like they're painting everything with that feature, and it's a very interesting time, what a time to be alive, right?
It is.
But
It is.
I think we've reached the era, like you mentioned about Kubernetes is boring now. This is going to be in that next stage eventually, but I think right now it's still little wild west, but there's a lot of really great progress that's been made over the past little while. That's only going to continue, and I think the question on everyone's mind isn't going to be like, are we going to do AI? It's how are we going to do AI? And if you're a VMware shop, I don't see a better solution than, the two biggest players in this space wiring them up together for you, NVIDIA
And I think you
VMware.
summed it up really well, Michael. It's the ifs and buts are now gone. Like when we do any surveys, it's 99.8%, 99% or so in enterprises are now totally on enterprise. They see the benefits, and there's a lot of investment phase right now, but there's no longer ifs and buts anymore. If you're not doing it, guess what? All your competitors are, right? So you're losing that competitive advantage. It's no longer a choice.
Oh, that's why we love having events like this where we can talk about how we can give that competitive edge to our VMware customers. So on that end, Julianne, send us home.
Yeah, that was really it. Just thanks everyone for coming today. And like Michael said, there's going to be a survey. It's really short, but we'd love to just hear what you thought of today and what you might want to hear about in the future as we plan future webinars. But again, we'll send this out once it's up on the website. And thank you for your time and hope to see everyone again soon.
Thank you very much, Julia.
Cheers, friends.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks so much.
Thank you,
I
Justin, Michael,
hope you can
Julian,
read
and everyone.
I hope you can read VMware Cloud Foundation. I'm seeing it backwards because I'm mirror imaged on my
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, we can see it.
I promise you, not coordinated.
It looks correct. It's like in mirror mode, so you're looking at yourself like you're in a mirror.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when we see it, we can read it correctly.
It's even worse than looking at myself the right way around, of course.
Yeah. And then
Awesome.
lastly, I put in the chat the link to our site. Please feel free to go in and you can get a ton of assets as well as that form Justin talked about.
Right on. All right, friends. Thanks so much.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Bye.